Hello everyone and welcome to another Endgame episode with Coach B and MasterChess.com. This is the last part of the video series that involves a Rook versus Rook and Pawn on the 7th rank. And in this video we will go over a defense technique which I call the long side checks defense. This is a great tool to know if the king is cut off and the Philidor position cannot be reached. If you're not familiar with the Philidor and the Lucena position, which are the two most important Rook Endgame positions, I encourage you to watch those videos first. So let's get started. If you've seen the Lucena and the Philidor position, you saw that if the defending king cannot get in front of the pawn, most of the time he's going to end up losing this game. In this position, if it's white to move, this is simply the Lucena position and white is winning. A simple check on g1 will get the black king away from the pawn and then white will be able to win this game. However, if it's black to move, black is able to draw due to the long distance checks defense. If the defending king is cut off on the short side of the board and his rook is on the long side of the board, then he is able to get a draw. If you look at the pawn is on the e file, the short side of the board will be on the right side of the pawn as we only have 3 files there. So the king is on the short side of the board. On the other side, there are 4 files to the left of the pawn and that is called the long side of the board. So we could see in this first position that the black king is on the short side of the board and his rook is on the long side of the board. Therefore, if he has the move, he is able to draw. The correct defense here is rook to a8 check. After this, white is forced out, so king to d7, then rook to a7 check. After king to d8, rook to a8 check. And the white king cannot get any shelter. After king to c7, rook to a7 check. And now if the white king goes to d6 to defend the pawn, rook to a6 check. And white cannot make any progress. After something like king to c5, trying to go towards the rook to stop the checks, well, now the rook simply needs to go behind the pawn and that pawn is captured and a draw has been achieved. Coming back from the very beginning, I do want to mention that if black's rook is even 1 file over, let's say he's on the b file, this is not a draw anymore. So let's take a look at that position and let's see why. So in this next position, it's the exact same position as before. The only difference is that the rook is on b2 instead of on a2, and this actually makes a big difference. We could see that black's king is on the short side of the board and the rook is on the long side of the board. However, just because it's not the furthest away from the king, white is going to be able to take advantage and win this game. So if we try the same defense technique, let's say rook to b8, after that, white will move with the king to d7, rook to b7 check, king to d6. And here there's 2 ways that black can play. He can try rook to b6 check, or he could try moving the rook to b8. If he tries rook to b6 check, well, after king to c7 attacking the rook, the pawn will promote on the next move, so the rook has to go to e6, and after king to d7, the pawn is defended and the rook is being attacked. So moving the rook to e2, the pawn will promote on the next move, and now black will have to sacrifice the rook and white will be able to win the game. And coming back after king to d6, we looked at rook to b6 check. A better try by black will be rook to b8. And here, a very important move. The way that white is going to be able to win is by deflection. The correct move here is an excellent move, rook to b1. The best that black has is to take the rook, and after rook takes b1, white will promote to a queen, and then he's going to have to play the game from here with the rook against the queen. However, the rook being separated from the king, it's going to be very hard to hold on to this position, as there are many forks that can happen where the queen can pick up the rook. If the rook was closer to the king, definitely he would have a lot more chances of drawing the position. However, in this video, we're not going to analyze the queen versus rook game. Now coming back after rook to b1, if black does not take the rook, this is actually worse. For example, if he moves the rook to a8, rook to a1, retrieving the rook here, it's going to end up in a much easier winning game for white. For example, if he moves the rook to b8 here, just moving it over, after king to c7, black is totally lost. The only retreat he has is either to e8 or to h8, keeping an eye on the promotion square. Well, if he moves the rook to h8, after king to d7, there's nothing that black can do to stop white from promoting the pawn. King to f7 will not work because after rook to f1 check, the king will have to move away and then the pawn will promote and then black will have to sacrifice the rook and white will win the game. If he goes to e8, stopping the pawn from promoting, well, after king to d7, that rook has to move away. And after the rook moves away, white will simply promote, and black will have to sacrifice the rook, and white will win the game. Alright, then coming back from the very beginning, I do want to go over another important position, which is shifting all of the pieces 1 unit to the right. So in this last position, we could see that the black king is still on the short side of the board, and black's rook is on the long side of the board. However, it's not on the A file. But due to the fact that the long side has 5 files now, this position is a draw again. And let's take a look to see what happens and why is this different than the previous position. So here, after rook to c8 check, king to e7, rook to c7 check, king to e6, well now, after rook to c8, black is able to draw. The same winning technique does not work here anymore. If white tries the deflection technique, let's say rook to c1, well here black is simply going to move to a8. After rook to a1, black is going to move the rook to b8. And this is the difference. Before, the white was able to attack the rook on the next move. Well here, white is not able to do that. Therefore, black is going to be able to achieve a draw. After the king will move to something like king to d7, black is going to start a series of checks, and there's nothing that white can do to get away from those checks. He cannot attack the rook, as the rook will simply take the pawn, and if he guards the pawn, then the checks will still continue, and there's nothing that white can do. Coming back to this position, we looked at rook to c1 trying to deflect black's rook, and that didn't work. Well, if the king will challenge the rook, that's not going to work either. For example, after king to d7, all that black has to do is move the rook to a8. Now he is on the long side, still covering the promotion square, and there's nothing that white can do after this. After something like king to e7, the series of checks will start, and the white king does not have any shelter from those checks, and black is going to be able to achieve a draw. Coming back from the very beginning, the only way that white will win this game is if black is going to blunder. For example, after rook to c8 check, king to e7, rook to c7, after king to f6, here black has to be very careful. He has to check the king on c6 in order to maintain a draw. If he makes the mistake of moving the rook to c8, covering the promotion square, well now rook to h1 is checkmate, and white will win this game. However, with correct play, after rook to c6, white is in check again, and there's nothing that white can do to prevent black from reaching a draw. So in conclusion, with the bishop pawn, if the defending king is caught off on the short side of the board and his rook is on the long side, he's able to achieve a draw if he has the move. If the pawn is on the center file, the defending side can get a draw if the king is on the short side of the board and the rook is on the farthest file away. If the rook is a file or more closer to the pawn, then he will lose the game with correct play. So thank you for watching this video. I encourage you to visit my website masteryourchess.com, where you will be able to practice these positions against the computer. If you liked my video, please subscribe and don't forget to check out my new website masteryourchess.com, where you can learn, practice, test, and master your chess knowledge.